Imagine a world where every need is satisfied before the thought of hunger even crosses your mind. A golden cage where struggle is a relic of a forgotten past. This is the story of how absolute abundance became the most lethal weapon ever designed. You stand at the threshold of a terrifying revelation about the nature of paradise. In the year 1968, a scientist named John Calhoun decided to play the role of a secular creator. He built a universe. It was not a universe of stars and galaxies, but a universe of mesh, metal, and grain. He called it Universe 25. To the naked eye, it was a utopia. To the inhabitants, it would become a living tomb. You must visualize this space. It was a square enclosure, 6.5 feet wide and 4.5 feet high. It was divided into 16 sections, each equipped with its own water bottle, nesting box, and food hopper. There were no predators. There was no cold. There was no disease. It was a place where the only requirement for existence was to breathe. Calhoun started his world with 4 pairs of healthy white mice. 8 pioneers in a land of milk and honey. At first, the growth was explosive. You can almost feel the vibration of their tiny heartbeats as they realized they were free from the tyranny of the wild. They ate. They mated. They thrived. Every 55 days, the population doubled. It was a demographic miracle. By the day 560, the population reached its peak at 2,200 mice. The space was designed to hold over 3,000, yet something began to rot within the walls of this perfect world. You see, when the physical environment provides everything, the social environment begins to demand a price. The mice no longer had to fight for food or shelter. Therefore, they no longer had to perform the complex social behaviors required for survival. The fabric of mouse society started to fray. The young were born into a world where all roles were already filled. There were no territories to claim. There were no dangers to ward off. The elders stayed healthy and lived long, refusing to vacate their social positions. This created a generation of outcasts with no purpose. They retreated to the center of the floor, away from the nesting boxes. They became a disorganized, listless mass. Look closely at the behavior that followed. It is a mirror held up to the future of our own species. The males who could not find a place in the social hierarchy simply gave up. They stopped defending their mates. They stopped protecting their nests. They became hyper-aggressive or completely withdrawn. The females, left without protection, became the primary defenders of their litters. This stress transformed their innate maternal instincts. They began to attack their own young. They abandoned their nests. They forgot how to be mothers because the social structure that supported motherhood had evaporated. This was the birth of what Calhoun called the behavioral sink. It was a whirlpool of social pathology that sucked the life out of the colony. The most chilling sight was the emergence of a group Calhoun named the Beautiful Ones. These were males who never fought and never mated. They spent their entire lives eating, sleeping, and grooming their fur. Their coats were perfect. Their bodies were healthy, but their minds were empty. They had no interest in the female mice. They had no interest in social interaction. They were biological shells. They were the living dead. You might wonder why a paradise would lead to such a catastrophic end. The answer lies in the erosion of the spirit through the absence of challenge. When a creature is relieved of all necessity, it is also relieved of all meaning. The mice reached a point where they could no longer perform the complex sequences of behavior required for courtship, rearing, and social organization. They lost the ability to be mice. By the day 600, the birth rate began to plummet. Even though the enclosure was still filled with food and water, the population was headed for extinction. The mice had suffered what Calhoun called the first death. This was the death of their spirit and their social identity. The second death, the physical extinction of the colony, was merely a mathematical certainty. The last 1,000 mice simply waited to die in their golden prison. They had plenty of grain, but they had lost the will to live. Now, I want you to turn your gaze away from the mouse enclosure and look into the mirror of your own life. We are living in an era of unprecedented abundance. You have more information in your pocket than the kings of the past had in their entire libraries. You can summon food with a touch on a glass screen. You are protected from the elements. You are increasingly insulated from the raw physical struggle that defined human existence for thousands of years. We are building our own version of Universe 25. The digital world is our nesting box. Social media is our grooming ritual. We are seeing the rise of our own beautiful ones. These are individuals who retreat from the complexities of real-world relationships, marriage, and child-rearing into the safety of curated, lonely perfection. They groom their digital profiles. They avoid the friction of physical social contact. They are physically healthy, but socially and spiritually dormant. The lesson of the utopian mouse experiment is that challenge is not an obstacle to life, it is the very substance of it. Your innate bonds are forged in the fires of shared struggle. Your character is carved by the resistance you meet in the world. When you remove all friction, you remove the possibility of growth. You see the erosion of the family unit. You see the rise of senseless aggression. You see the profound loneliness of a crowded room. This is not a coincidence. It is the predictable outcome of a society that prioritizes comfort over purpose. We are witnessing the collapse of the societal structure because we have forgotten that we are biological creatures designed for effort. If you do not have to fight for your place, you will eventually lose the capacity to even know what your place is. The catastrophe of abundance is that it robs you of your soul before it takes your body. You must realize that the future of human civilization depends on our ability to reintroduce meaning into a world of plenty. We must find our own mountains to climb, even if we have to invent them. We must resist the urge to become the beautiful ones, trapped in a cycle of self-absorption and vanity. We must embrace the friction of community, the difficulty of love, and the burden of responsibility. Without these things, we are merely mice in a cage, waiting for the clock to run out on a species that forgot how to live while it was busy surviving in luxury. Your ambitions and your fears are the only things keeping you human. Do not trade them for a comfortable extinction. I urge you to reflect on your own environment. Are you surrounded by comforts that are slowly dimming your inner fire? If this analysis has resonated with your deepest fears or sparked a new ambition within you, then join this journey of philosophical exploration. I invite you to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell to ensure you never miss a deep dive into the hidden mechanics of our world. Leave a comment below and tell me if you believe we are already living in the middle of a behavioral sink, or if there is still a way for us to escape the fate of universe. 25. Your voice is the friction that keeps this conversation alive. Let us build a future that is not just abundant, but truly alive.